What's up guys, Clayton Furidi here. Now today I wanted to talk about a monster that was cut from an earlier version of Godzilla Tokyo SOS. This is the prehistoric creature that the title monster was supposed to kill in that movie. So during Godzilla's popular Millennium film series, nearly every movie that would come out in that era was a direct sequel to the first. Every single entry, with the exception of one, wound up being reboots to an already heavily rebooted franchise. The one and only movie in this time period that wound up being a sequel to its direct predecessor was Godzilla Tokyo SOS, which was a self-contained continuation of the previous year's Godzilla against Mechagodzilla. Now, early on in that movie's development, the return of the title monster was always intended to be a very important event, and one that would call for an incredibly killer reintroduction to say the least. Their idea was to have the body of some poor monster wash ashore in Japan, the implication being that it had lost a fight with Godzilla and paid the ultimate price for it. Now, in the final film, the monster that washes up onto Japan's beach happens to be a Kamibas, which really only had one other major appearance before in Toho's cult space amoeba film. The reason Kamibas wound up being in the movie is a long story of production influencing that stems from somebody in the film's development suggesting that Gamera's body should be the one that washes ashore. But of course, Toho didn't own Gamera, and it's not like their rival studio would just lend one of their own monsters in order for it to get killed, which is what led to Toho choosing Kamibas instead. But before both of these turtle monsters were in the cards, director Masaki Tezuka requested Anguirus to be used for the scene. However, Shogo Tomiyama, the film's producer, decided against such an idea, wishing for that monster to instead stay alive if they ever made another sequel. All of this pontification on which monster to kill off stems from what the company had in store in the film's initial script, which would have had the dead monster be revealed as a giant Liopleurodon that had suffered massive neck wounds due to Godzilla's fatal attack. Initially, most fans seemed to simply call this monster the, quote, giant mosasaur. However, Shinji Nishikawa's drawing book of Godzilla reveals it to be a real-life species of Jurassic reptile, giving it the name Liopleurodon, which we now know it as today. The reason nobody at Toho seemed to want to go through with killing off this prehistoric creature, though, seems to stem from the company not wanting to introduce a new character just so that they could kill it off. Usually, when they create a new monster to be shown on screen, it gets its own little logo and copyright protection in order to be used in further kaiju films. So once you take into account the whole idea behind its appearance being nothing more than a simple death scene, I think you can see where the company was coming from. Still, I must admit that the idea of a giant mosasaur living in this universe has always been a really cool idea to me, and I kind of wish that they'd at least entertain that idea in a newer Godzilla entry. Had this Liopleurodon monster been introduced and copyrighted in Godzilla Tokyo SOS, it may have only served the purpose of being killed, sure, but just think of what kind of awesome new movie we could have gotten out of it. Godzilla vs. the Liopleurodon sounds like the kind of movie that would blow Abira Horror of the Deep out of the water, but in the end, this never came to be. Now, with all of that being said, I'd like to ask you all what you personally think about this monster. We don't really know too much about it now, but in your opinion, would you have liked to have seen it used in Tokyo SOS? Or would you like to see it make its first official appearance in a brand new Godzilla movie? Whatever your own thoughts and opinions happen to be, I'd love to hear them in the comments down below.